next year, and that may be as good as it gets. In other words, it's not clear that enough has happened in terms of fundamental drivers of growth, in terms of investment and export, to continue at a more rapid pace after next year.
One thing we're doing well is attracting foreign investment, but there are worries that strains at Stormont could sour those relations.
The important thing is, this doesn't spread outside Northern Ireland. People looking at Northern Ireland from the outside say, you can't reach agreement on your budget, you can't reach agreement on these troubles factors, and you want us to come and invest? Sorry, we should better be careful.
The business community in Northern Ireland is a broad church. They generally stay out of politics, and it's likely to stay that way. But there is a growing sense of frustration about our politicians and their inability to cooperate to govern effectively. Naomi McMullen, UTV Live Tonight, Stormont.
Well, what you know about the DEP Paul Frew, who sits on Stormont's Trade and Enterprise Committee, and Sinn Féin's Daithí Mackay, who chairs Stormont's Finance Committee. Very good to see both of you. Did either of you know about the closure of Gallagher?
Well, we knew that the jobs were under threat, and we knew that they were under threat because of global pressures and because of the European directive. We have tried everything we could have done to save as many jobs as possible, not only with this large employer, but with all the employers, the large employers in Northampton. We work day in, day out with them. We listen to their needs and their wants, and it was quite clearly demonstrated to us that was a massive issue for JTI and Gallagher.
You knew jobs were under threat. Daithí Mackay, what about you?
Well, we all knew there were concerns about Gallagher's, and we all knew that it doesn't matter if it's Gallagher's, any major company, any major global company will always look at options in terms of Eastern Europe, in terms of cheaper labour, and unfortunately in this case, it is quite clear they have chosen the cheaper option in terms of Poland and Romania, because the European directive will equally apply in Poland and Romania as it does here. So unfortunately, the decision has been taken by the company. It is a global company. It isn't a company like others in Northampton that are rooted locally, and they've taken this decision based on cost.
Which then, realistically, this ministerial team that is being put in place to try and help the workers, what can it actually achieve?
Well, I think we need to establish how long these jobs are going to stay in that plant. I think we have time, in a year and a half. We need to establish what lines will go quicker than others, and we need to make sure that there are more jobs in that area.
Okay, so how are you going to do that?
Well, we're going to have to try and attract foreign investment. Ballymena is very, very good at manufacturing. We're far better than even Belfast. We punch well above our weight, so we have a skilled workforce, and these people will be ready for employment if and when that time comes. And that's what we need to make sure, and the executive needs to ensure that there's jobs there for these people to go into. But make no mistake about it, this is a massive, devastating blow to the economy of Ballymena.
These jobs, Daithí Mackay, are in part, I suppose, some might say, the unfortunate outcome that many of us are just choosing to give up smoking.
Well, I think just to follow on from Paul's point, I mean, these jobs are some of the most highly skilled that we have in terms of manufacturing. So I've been speaking to some Northampton employers this evening.
Yes, but still they're not skilled. You have to face up to the reality that people are choosing to kick the habit, so therefore there isn't going to be that demand.
Absolutely, the market is changing, and companies need to respond to that market. But in terms of these jobs, in terms of these employees and their families, there are opportunities for them there for other companies in Northampton, and the onus is not only on politicians but also interested parties in Northampton to get round the table, be constructive, and ensure these people have jobs to go to years.
Okay, the onus is on companies, but let's broaden this out a little and focus on what Naomi was talking about in her report, which is the wider issue. The onus surely is on politicians to deliver here, to try and help out to attract that inward investment. Something that there are concerns within the business community that you guys just aren't up to the job.
Well, we're concerned. This has been portrayed as some sort of argument between parties. That is not the case. We either reform or we don't. And we're quite willing to make the hard, difficult decisions that we face in Northern Ireland. And
what do you see as those hard and difficult decisions as being?
Well, reform is going to happen, and either we implement it or ourselves in a way that will support our people, with all the hard decisions and the pain that comes with that, or someone else would do it for us. And with all the harshness and full blastness of welfare reform, we need to be in a position to take these decisions. We will not shy away from these decisions. We will not turn our face away. We're prepared to make these decisions. I wish other parties in Sinn Féin, in particular, would make these decisions.
Okay, well, let's not get into party politicking, because I don't think that's going to be of any comfort to the people in Gallagher's tonight. Dahi Mackay, though, you sit, or you chair, the Finance Committee, and so much pressure is on the Finance Minister at the moment to try and balance the books. We will focus on this in a moment, but is there a bit of light at the end of the tunnel? Are we going to see some sort of some movement over the coming days?
Well, I think there has to be movement. I think that the executive meeting today was constructive and positive. It's important that all parties follow through in that we deal with the difficult issues. And it is important that we get all parties around the table, we get the British and Irish governments to start to take their responsibilities seriously, whether it's regard to welfare or the outstanding issues in terms of parades and the past, because the business community to which you refer is concerned about the image we portray to the outside world. And to have this situation every summer where that image is damaged repeatedly is not something that we want to see go on continuously. It needs to be resolved, and it needs to be resolved now.
It is clear over the last 24 hours that you guys, no matter what party you're on, share a real hurt and devastation at the jobs that have been lost at Gallagher's. Does this put fresh impetus into the procedure for you guys to work together to try and find something for these workers that are losing their jobs?
A large part of my job is tasked to retaining the workforce and the jobs that are in Northumberland, and also to attract more. That hasn't ended, that hasn't become more increasingly important. That is always in my mindset, and it's always part of my job. And I will always fight for every single job in Northumberland. I only wish that other politicians would take that view when in Europe.
Okay, Paul Frew and Dahi Mackay, thank you both very much indeed for coming in and talking to us this evening. Thank you. And the health of the economy is the subject of the issue tomorrow night here on UTV. Yvette Shapiro and a panel of guests will be here live at 11:05. Well, Stormont ministers have agreed to formally discuss how to resolve the £220 million shortfall in Northern Ireland's budget. The executive must agree this month on the October monitoring round, the quarterly review of our finances, if you will. Well, today at a special meeting, ministers agreed to discuss the finance minister's paper on the monitoring round tomorrow. Our political correspondent Tracy McGee has this report.
There's been months of deadlock over the financial crisis now facing Stormont. Today, ministers gathered for a special executive meeting to try to find some answers.
For the wrong end.
The immediate problem is the October monitoring round. Quarterly the executive's finances in the black. Currently, the executive has a £200 million budget. 87 million of that is due to the Treasury penalty because of the failure to implement welfare reform. There's also the failure to agree a budget for next year. That must be in place by January. But finally, today there was some movement with an agreement to discuss the monitoring round at tomorrow's executive.
There was certainly engagement around the table to engage. The question is whether people actually engage when decisions have to be taken, rather than merely when there are any problems.
The usual executive meeting will take place tomorrow afternoon.
Well, Tracy is with me now. Tracy, news this evening of a proposal to deal with October monitoring round problems then.
That's right. I'm hearing that Pierre Robinson and the Finance Minister Simon Hamilton had a conversation with the Chancellor last week, and they put forward a proposal which I'm told, if it were to be agreed, could solve the problems in the October monitoring round. Now, it has to be agreed, as I understand it. The ball is in the Treasury's court. We're waiting to find out what exactly this proposal is and if it could be agreed.
Well, any source the proposal might be?
No, the source I spoke to was very cagey about it all because effectively it's still all up in the air. But look, we know what the problem is. The problem is the £220 million hole in the budget, which has to be agreed in the monitoring round. So whatever this proposal is, it will deal with that problem. There are a number of different things that they could do. It could be that the Treasury would scratch the money that's outstanding. I would have thought that's pretty unlikely. It could be there would be a little bit of creative thinking about moving money around. It could be that the executive would be allowed to borrow the money. We really just at this stage don't know.
Dare we say it, that today's meeting us with a bit of progress?
Well, the fact that the meeting took place at all, Mark, is progress. The fact that they sat down around the table and talked about it, the fact that they agreed to formally talk about it in the executive is progress as well too. Now, you might say, well, you would think when there's all these budgetary problems, the very least they would do to talk about it, but in the prevailing atmosphere, that actually is progress. But it's one thing to talk about it, it's a different thing to agree it. Now, could be this proposal could be the game changer. We really don't know at this stage. But look, even if we get over this £220 million hurdle in the October monitoring line, there is the massive problem of a budget that is yet to be agreed.
It'll be an interesting meeting tomorrow. Tracy, for now, thank you very much indeed. Well, coming up after the break, more of today's news, and we'll be previewing the morning paper, so join us again in less than a minute.
But this one was just right, because Special K multigrain porridge is made from a delicious blend of oats, barley, rye and yummy berries. With 7 vitamins and iron, it's definitely not the same old story.
A man who died just months before he was due to give evidence to the historical institutional abuse inquiry has, in a statement, described Raban House in Kirkcoven as a cruel place where he was constantly